Welcome back to the Moodboard. My name is Aaron.
And this is Caesar.
And we're two creatives having meaningful conversations to help you unlock your creative potential. We're going to go straight into this episode, into this conversation. In the last one, we covered a couple of things, one of them being Caesar's experience working on the giant sandals in that one music video that became iconic and having to work overnight. If you've missed that, go check that out. We also talked about recent news in AI, one of them being Procreate's a strong stance for artists. Really interesting stuff. And in this episode, we're just going to wing it, right, Caesar? We had a brief conversation about what we were going to talk about, but we want to just go with the flow. And I want to start off by asking Caesar what the latest news is in the fashion world, because I saw something yesterday and I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to freestyle this episode, and freestyling or having that skill to freestyle is very important in the design world, because whether you procrastinate or whether you have a lot on your plate, a lot of work, and you sometimes have to become resourceful. Yeah. So I think the pressure is good for you to build up your freestyle skill, but you have to make it effortless.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't show sweat.
In regard, and don't laugh. I was going to say, yes, in the news, fashion news, sneaker news, yeah, we saw that Steven Smith's time came to an end at the Yeezy. And looking back at all the time, all the contribution, all the work that he did, it's hard to believe that it's over, but also it's an experience, something to share with everyone here, that like everything comes to an end. And because I know a lot of people, some people are in careers or jobs that are not like, I don't know, truly fulfilled, like they're just doing it for doing it. Hey, I want to let you know that has a timeline. Like you're going to get where you're supposed to be, where you need to be. And for the people that have really good jobs or that are in their dream jobs, sorry to break it down for you, but that will come to an end. And you're going to have to figure out like, what are you going to do? Who do you want to become? And sometimes these endings are good because it propels you onto the next level of your career, of you becoming a professional. Maybe you start a company that hadn't you been fired from your dream job, you wouldn't have started that. So a lot of things unfold after these kind of endings. And yeah, that's the latest.
Yeah. No, that's such a great way to put it in terms of those. I just remember the quote that you gave a while back about setbacks being set-ups for something, and thinking back about all of the great entrepreneurs or just great people like legend like Steven Smith, who've accomplished so much in their careers. Every time that something like this happens, it sets them up for the next chapter in their story. And it's really, well, like you mentioned in your post yesterday on LinkedIn, that it's the end of an era. It's exciting to think about what's going to happen after and what he will do in the next chapter, what he will accomplish. And so it's new beginnings, right?
Totally. New beginnings. Yeah, a lot could change. One person can change the course of a company, and that's all it takes. Whether he decides to go full-time or stay independent, I think it's gonna change the balance of the industry at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to mention in terms of like high profile people that have been making the news recently. Telegram's CEO, I don't know if you saw this, Caesar, but he was arrested over the weekend, and it's brought up a really interesting conversation about the state's power over free speech or platforms that enable free speech. A lot of people have their very strong opinions for both sides, and as far as I've seen online. But it's really interesting to see how individuals can have, like you mentioned, so much power within a company. They can change the course of it, and the governments know this. And I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I have some thought on the subject, but maybe we can discuss that later point in the podcast. But I think going back to the subject of being ready for unexpected things, unexpected surprises, and just the differences between those who prepare and those who are caught, by surprise. I've been on both sides,
me
early
too.
on.
Me too.
Yeah, it's not fun to be caught by surprise and not be prepared, but you only have to learn it, once to really get the incentive to be prepared for next time. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, how do you recommend in a time like this where, there is a lot of news around there not being enough jobs or there being layoffs? And this is a theme that we've covered a lot on this podcast because a lot of our listeners are in the creative field. Some of them are early on in their career. Some of them are freelancing like us. How do you prepare or just stay prepared for those unexpected layoffs or unexpected client losses or whatever?
Right. I would say definitely keep in touch in your network. Carve out time throughout the week to check in with people, follow up with people.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just connect. Let's just catch up. Just have a conversation. Let's have a coffee. But it is important to keep your network, or let's say, in my case, previous clients, I check in. How are you doing? Stay on the radar and keep yourself fresh in their mind. And I think maybe once a week is a little bit too much, but maybe once a month is fine.
Yeah, like getting that cadence right.
Like check in once a month, like 30-minute conversation once a month. It's good. So yeah, keep your network like fresh, keep steering your network, and always have your resume and portfolio or your credentials, have them ready.
Yeah.
And then I would say keep LinkedIn open. I think I have been trying I have been trying something different where I've deleted Instagram from my phone.
Interesting.
And I have been reducing the time that I spend on Instagram.
Okay.
However, I've seen that that time that I used to spend on Instagram, I am replacing it with LinkedIn.
Okay.
Which it's not a bad thing because like in LinkedIn, you see a lot of work opportunities, or it's just, I would say, more rewarding. I would say LinkedIn is like business, Instagram is entertainment.
Your ROI on the time you spend on LinkedIn is much higher than maybe Instagram for now.
Yes, and because Instagram is like mostly friends, and then a few people that like I work with, like professional world. Sure, yes, but LinkedIn is where you can have a wider outreach. A lot of people are checking it, so it's just, I think, better.
The different too, right? Like when people are on LinkedIn, they're strictly on business. Like it's we're looking for someone, or we're sharing work progress, work updates, and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think that's really
an article.
Yeah, that's establishing like their credibility and their space and making their availability known. I recently just have been a lot more active on LinkedIn. I've also had like a realization of just how important it is for getting work and making it known that you are available. It sounds very simple, but sometimes it's been to maybe change mindsets from going from like creative mode to being like, hey, this is time to do outreach. This is time to do marketing, because it's so important to the design work that you do outreach, that you get more work, right? Like we've talked about a lot here. And so LinkedIn is just such a great space to do it. And also doing it in a novel way, I think, is also very refreshing.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like having a personal touch to what you say and share on LinkedIn. It goes a long way. At the end of the day, we're people and we all like to laugh. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to keep that sense of humor.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah.
And it's important
And
too, because it's like you distinguish yourself amongst whatever's on the feed. If you figure out a way to make people pause and engage with your post, it's really good. Like one thing I've been trying out is just like sharing updates on like things I'm already doing and sharing the software that I'm using, just making it known that I have this particular skill. I think it's really important that share their curiosity online more frequently, because it really to other people what you care about and what you're good at.
yeah, totally. And since we talked about, catering to creative professionals, it just crossed my mind since we were talking about LinkedIn, spending time on LinkedIn, making sure that you are on top of your work, your network, and also sometimes not waiting for the opportunities to come up, but you creating the opportunities. So I think that's also important to make sure that
Yes.
you address those topics or like those initiatives. Make sure that you reach out to the right person to the best of your ability. Reach out to a decision maker where you want to work, who you want to work with, and propose them something. I think it's important for creators, especially now, to creatives are visionaries, meaning that you have to go the extra mile to capture something in the future and bring it to today and present it to people that you want to work with, brands that you want to work with, and show them like, hey, I was thinking this. And some people, I think you will get a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
And maybe even the opportunity to at least have a intro meeting. And
100%.
when that happens, like you have half of your food inside the door.
Yeah. I think being proactive about looking ways to improve people's products in a respectful way, I think is a really good way to show interest and to show capability. And I know this is kind of a controversial topic for some people, because I know there's this like resistance towards providing free work, but I do believe in it. The reason why is because it's like a sample, right? Like you're walking through the mall and they give you a sample at this restaurant. That's what I mean about a free
work. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
You're investing
immersal.
in the relationship.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's an investment. Yeah, exactly. That's such a great way to put it. When investors provide money for upfront capital for a startup, they're not giving it for free. They're investing. They're going to get something in return.
Yeah.
And so that's the way. Yeah, that's a great way to reframe that. Investing time.
Yeah. Also, sometimes the association of you and that brand or company is more valuable than any financial compensation or reward.
100%.
I read this in the Think Grow Rich book that talks about, was it that book or somewhere else? Now I'm thinking. But anyways, I think it was that book. But it was talking about that sometimes you being associated with someone, the relationship.
Yes.
It far outweighs any financial compensation, because the fact that you're associated with that person, that's going to put you up in a different level. People are going to perceive you different. And people don't need to know that, I don't know, you did something for free. It's just the fact that I did it for so-and-so. Or like I did it for...
There's a connection there.
Yes, I did it for this connection that I have. So then that association, when you talk about it, let's say in an interview or in a meeting, that reassures the other people that you're trying to work with, reassures that, like, oh, wow, if he's at that level working with that company, he has what it takes.
Right. It's a way to level up. It's a way to really just tap into that network, that massive, like, Yeah, like brand association is such a powerful thing. We've talked about Apple and our association with user-friendly technology and thinking about, major brands and ease of use, etc. And it applies for people as well. I was thinking, I think it is that book, the Think and Grow Rich, because at the beginning of the book, he talks about this gentleman who wants to work with Thomas Edison, right? And he's like, I'm going to let
yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a really I actually restarted it this weekend.
Oh, did you?
And yeah, I restarted it, and I came across that story because it's at the very beginning. It's such a great story about just the determination. The guy didn't have any money, right? So he just hopped on a train that is supposed to transport freight, and he shows up at the door and he's like, yeah, I want to work with you. Which is wild to think about these days. I don't know how that would fly, but one has to admire the lessons in that story, because that determination is what helped that guy see an opportunity where no one else did, or where everyone else was like, it's impossible. And he wanted it so much that he saw the possibility, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's really cool. I was going to go back to this thing about posting and just letting people know that you exist, because it's such a recurring lesson for me that all kind of ties back to the Think and Grow Rich book, because there is a story there about the guy who finds a little piece of gold and then goes back home and tells his family, and his family all pitch in to buy machinery so that they can go back to California and, try to dig up some more gold.
Yeah.
And they all do it. They all go back and they try to dig up more, and they find a bit more. And then it looks like they're out of gold and it's over, and they have to sell their machinery. And the guy who buys the machinery from them goes and finds somebody who specializes in like understanding how minerals work beneath the earth.
The engineer.
The engineer. And then the engineer tells him the gold is supposed to be 3 feet from where the other people stopped digging. And that story really resonated with me, because oftentimes you can be online and you can be sharing your work and you'll get 3 likes. So you'll get 1 like and 2 of them are from your family members or friends. And you can get a little discouraged, but it really comes down to just being consistently there. It's not about those metrics. Like, those metrics are very helpful. It's really just about building the discipline to show up every day and provide something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one day the right person will come across, and it's gonna be like the trigger that starts a fire.
Yeah.
And that's what, on The Founder, the movie, when he's about to build the first McDonald's, because he first buys the land, when he realizes that without land there is nothing, without real estate there is no McDonald's. So when he buys the first land, and he's right before building it, he says, I just have to be right one time.
Wow.
And I think that's the force behind us showing up every week on this podcast.
Yeah.
Just sharing knowledge, experiences, opinions for people that might later they might not know about us now, but they might come across us later in a time of, I need something refreshing, I need new energy, and they come across us. And as some people have said, some of the audience have said, oh, this is good, this is refreshing, I'm glad you guys are doing this. So we're doing this for the audience because we wish we had what we're doing before.
Yeah.
And I think I want to segue into class of 2028.
Whoa.
A lot of a lot of students started their academic year, and I was like, wow, class of 2028.
That's wild. It sounds like really, really crazy to think, but it's actually not far, right?
Yeah,
it's
maybe
4
it's because
years. We've gotten older or something, but that is not really as long as it's kind of crazy to think, though, that what a time to be a freshman in college. or to just come into the world deciding
What to do
career
for
to
a
take.
living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When everything is in flux.
Yeah. So like now, as a closing topic, I would love to like us to touch on what advice would you give class of 2028 from us that we have been working for the past 10 years practically. What would you tell to a class 2028 student?
Understand how money works if you don't
Mhm.
already.
Mhm.
Understand game theory.
Mhm.
I think getting better, recording your learnings everywhere constantly, keeping documentation of your experiences. I think go to the source, try to experiment as much as you can, and be skeptical, but at the same time be rationally optimistic. I think we need a lot more designers in the world and thinkers who are willing to do the work and build communities with other people who are willing to make the world a better place in whatever corner of the world they are. I think that would my piece of I don't know if I would say advice, but it's what I would give either a younger self or someone who really wants to create a positive impact in their society. What about you?
For me, I would have to say that looking back and what I would tell them, things that I should have focused more on, it was, don't, it's like college is a time for you to experiment in terms of what you want to do, but not necessarily on who you want to be. And what I mean by that is because I think a lot of people confuse college with, yes, it's a time of transformation for yourself as a person, and you're en route to become a professional, to serve the world, serve your community, serve your city. I think a lot of people focus on their becoming, who they're becoming, but they forget that at the end, what matters, one of the things that matter the most is what you do. And what I mean by that, again, is in college, a lot of people care about what you're wearing, what you are, especially like in an art school, creative school, or in a fashion school. Students can get caught up in portraying images because they're reinventing themselves. And to a certain extent, that's important. You be mindful of who you are, who you're becoming a better person. But I also want to put emphasis that you have to focus on what you're doing, because what you're doing, that repetition of what you're doing, is what's going to build the habits that you need to become successful in the professional world. So in college, make sure that you build up the habit of reading.
Yes.
Make sure that you build the habit of networking, following up. Start being active on LinkedIn, on the social media networks. To you could use college to document your journey as of you becoming who you want to be, and that could be the start of something, because a lot of people wants to follow journeys, and
Yeah.
that's the pattern that I've seen of successful YouTube channel, is that they
Yeah.
started 10 years ago.
Dude, it's so true. Yeah.
Talking about, oh, this is the day-to-day in me becoming I don't know.
Man, and there's audience for everything too.
Yes, there's audience for everything. Now, again, be mindful of finding the right balance between doing that, because I don't think you should be, maybe, but to a certain degree, college is not about vlogging. But yes, share, document your experience on social media of your learning journey. I think that could be rewarding and insightful for a lot of people. So yeah, just focus. Just make sure that in college you build the habits, healthy habits, to be a good professional, and to focus on what you're doing. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on the relationships that you're building, and be nice to everyone, because you might need the help of someone later down the road. So yeah, make sure that you're nice to everyone and you build relationships in college.
That's such great advice. I was just thinking, I wish we would have had, or I wish I would have had this podcast when I was going through college, because there's very, very great wisdom here that has just been shared. Kindness goes such a long way, and the relationships that you build, the people that you're in class with, never know. You never know who's going to become what, or who's going to do what. And it's really, I think, important to build good memories with the people around you.
Yeah.
Because like you said, later on, you never know how your paths may cross again.
Yes. Yeah, very important. And this is a great moment for us to close these thoughts and to leave it to the audience, to ask them for advice for the class of 2028. What would you tell them?
What would you like to
share with them? Yes, what would you like to share with them? Anything, books, quotes, anecdotes, testimonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what other people have to say, what they would advise young students coming into college journey.
Right on. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Is there anything else we should cover before we close this episode? Should we touch on the fact that we have one episode that we didn't publish? So this is technically episode 20, but it's coming out as episode 19.
19.
Yeah. Should we tell that story real quick, or should we go ahead?
Yeah, we can tell it really quick. We had a lot of technical difficulties that prohibit us from putting it together. However, you had a very good idea about using bits and pieces of the episode for just marketing content. So, hey, it's not all lost at the end. So yeah, I'm glad you thought about that, and you have the expertise and to break things down and make it work at the end of the day.
Yeah, we'll repurpose it.
Yeah.
And this has been a great conversation, and very excited for the future. I think there is a lot of open questions about how our disciplines will change. I know there's a lot of open discussion with the latest technologies having an impact on the way we do business and do life and do our work. But I do think that I think we're going to figure it out how to maneuver in that new world.
Right on.
But yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much for listening. And this is Moodboard, where we come together as two creatives to have meaningful conversations to help you unlock your creative potential. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. See you next week.